Hello, Sarah. Delighted to be chatting to you. You joined with Steve Evans here.
Hi, Sarah. Good to meet you.
Hello, Steve. Love to meet you as well.
How are you? How's life in Liverpool? I was going to ask how the weather is, but I'll just look out the window.
And I was saying, yeah. So it was lovely yesterday, wasn't it? But
Yeah,
it's kind of gone a bit grey and a bit wet today. Yeah.
Are you finding that it's getting sort of warmer, like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? It is my backyard anyway. It's getting weird, the weather. It's getting warmer later.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. We put the heating on today. We got a bit chilly now, so we've got the heating on for half an hour.
Yeah, me too. I'm always freezing though, so I have it on in the middle of summer and wear thermal socks in the summer as well. Terrible. Feeling really bad, mate. Anyway.
Oh dear. Yeah. Sarah, can we ask you, apart from your writing, what hobbies have you got? Are you still doing the kickboxing?
Oh, I'm too old for that now, Terry. You know, I loved that. I absolutely loved my kickboxing days, but now I'm a bit more chilled. So I go swimming. I walk my lovely black lab Seamus, and I'm a mum's boy. Sorry, a boy's mum. So I do a lot of Lego, and we watch a lot of Marvel films and Star Wars, and you know, I like jigsaws as well. I think as a writer, jigsaws are quite good for your brain because you've got the whole picture and then you've got the little bits that you have to fit in. And I think that's how your brain works, you know, as a writer. You see the whole picture, the whole story, and then you have to get the little bits fitted in as well. So it must be just the way my brain works.
Oh, that's a great description.
Yeah, absolutely. I picked up on a couple of pieces there. You worked as a chaplain. I want to know a little bit more about that. I've got a friend who's a chaplain. That's why I'm interested. So give us a bit more info about your chaplaincy then.
Oh, I love that job. Well, I've taught RE and sex education actually for about 27 years. And part of it was I cut down some of my hours for about 5 years. I worked as the school chaplain, and we worked, you know, very closely with groups of kids and one-on-one and just supporting them. And, you know, in RE, you think about all the big questions all the time, life and death and justice and peace and what do we owe people and how should we live our lives. So really, it was just taking that a step further and working a bit more personally with some of the kids. It was really, really good time.
Oh, right. Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. And I noticed in your biography, or not your biography, your testimonial read on Twitter, I think it is, established a justice and peace youth group. Is that something to do with, well, you tell me, I'm not too sure what that is. Is it anything to do with being a justice of the peace or nothing to do with that?
No, what it is I think it's really, really important that we try and make the world a better place. And, you know, I'm just a little woman from Liverpool and I teach in a classroom and I teach RE. But I also think that with the kids we've got, they've got loads of gifts, they've got loads of talents, they've got loads of abilities. And if we sort of highlight the problems that are in the world at the moment and we try and encourage them and give them a bit of power to see that they can make a difference, they can make a change, that those kids are going to run with it and they're going to grow up and use all their gifts and talents to sort of make a real difference in the world. So I've got a group at the moment. We've got about 50 kids and we meet sort of once a fortnight and we just focus on little charities, on bigger problems in the world, on raising awareness with the adults that we live with, on raising awareness of issues in the local parish. They do little things that make a big difference and highlight important issues, and it empowers them to believe that when they grow up, they can really make a difference, because we need some good leaders. We need some good leaders in our country. We need some good leaders in our city. We need people to think about other people and the difficulties they have and hopefully, you know, make a difference. And I really believe in that really strongly.
Sounds very positive, that, Sarah. Put positivity into
Isn't
their
it?
lives as
Isn't
well.
it? Yeah, that is really positive. It's really good to see that. Yeah.
What areas in Liverpool is that, Sarah?
So I live up by, you know, Liverpool Hope University.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's really pretty. We've got loads of trees. When I'm looking, I sit at the bay window here at my writing desk and nosy down the street while I'm writing. We've got loads of pretty trees, and we've got the campus just around the corner with all the lovely books in. And as you can see from my house, you know, we like a few good books there.
Yeah.
So it's a nice place to live. And the kids, you know, the kids around by ours are quite privileged. They go to nice schools, and it's their responsibility to use what they've been brought up with to help people who maybe not so privileged. And I remind them of that every now and then.
Sarah, on your website, it's excellent, by the way, sarahmoorhead.com. You mentioned someone saying as a kid that they'd never read a book written by a woman, and that's why you use your initials SE, Moorhead. Do you think that perception's changed somewhat, given that women are the majority of fiction readers?
Well, yeah, women are definitely the majority of fiction readers. And I think women, especially in my sort of age group, read a lot of fiction. I don't think they'd have a problem with me using my first name. But it was actually my dad. And my dad is a gentleman of a certain age. He's in his 80s now. And when I was very young, he'd sort of said, oh, I wouldn't really want to read a book written by a woman. And so I snuck in a few copies of Ellis Peters. And I said, hey, Dad, have you read this fella? He's brilliant. He's all about medieval history, all those things you love. And then my dad got into it. And then finally I said, oh, by the way, Ellis Peters is a woman. And he got the message. And now, he'll read anything. He'll read absolutely anything. And, he's proud of what I've written. And he'll definitely read my book. So he learned.
Sticking with your family there, so are your husband Sean, you have 2 sons, and have you always lived in Liverpool? Well, you must have always lived in Liverpool, surely.
Oh, do you know, Steve, the longest I've spent out of Liverpool is 3 weeks. I was just getting stressed out and I had to come home. 3 weeks. I was in India, and we were dead lucky to get to travel to India. And I went, oh, I've got to get home now. I've had enough. It's like I just feel full of life in Liverpool. I think Liverpool is just the best city in the world. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. And I've got 2 sons. I've got Patrick, who's doing his A-levels. God help me, Senjin. And I've got Tig, who's just gone to secondary school. Now, Tig's name means a philosopher or a storyteller in Irish. And his dad, they're all his dad's philosophy books. And Sean's from Ireland. And obviously, I'm a storyteller. So we thought that was a perfect name to give our little one.
Yeah.
I love the name. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and God, you are definitely you cut you open. You've definitely got Scouse blood through you, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh, all the way through. But it's funny because I thought you were going to ask me about the rest of my family, because my big brother, my brothers and my dad are very influential in my writing, because my big brother was a forensic scientist for a while. And when we were little in the 80s, do you ever remember that magazine? The serial killer magazine, I think it was called Crime File.
Yeah.
And every week you'd get like a new
Who's a naked woman on the cover.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, we wrapped brown paper around that one just in case we didn't know the story. But we used to read every week about serial killers, and he used to buy secondhand like pathology books when we were kids, and he used to be really into it. So when I started writing, that's already in my background, and it was already in my consciousness. So I was quite interested in writing about serial killers. And then my little brother, who's a lot taller than me now and in his 40s, he was a probation officer for a long time, so he was a really great person you could ring up and ask all sorts of questions about murders and the law and that kind of thing. And then he got dead clever then and became a lecturer in criminal justice. So I pick his brains loads. And then I've got my dad was a scientist as well, but we got brought up as Irish Catholic Scousers, so for us science and religion always went hand in hand. And because of thinking about the big questions like death and justice and right and wrong and morality, and then having this scientific background again, I guess it just became the sort of writer that I just had to be, somebody who wrote about murder and justice and morality, but with a bit of science in it as well, because I think religion and science are actually quite happy bedfellows, and they do go together, and that juxtaposition between the two brings up some brilliant ideas and brilliant areas to think about, doesn't it?
Yeah. So your book is behind you there, Witness X. Can I ask how you connected with your publisher and agents? What came first?
I was just going to ask the same question.
Sorry, Steve. We'll
ask it twice. Important questions, especially when you're trying to, if people are trying to get published, it's your first hurdle. I often think of writing as climbing a mountain. And you start off right at the bottom and you look up to the top of the mountain and you think, I'm never going to get there. Yeah. And then you climb up a bit because you start writing, and then you finish your book and that's a plateau and you have a little rest. And then you need to think about getting an agent. And I thought that, I think in a funny way, getting an agent's the hardest bit. So what I did was I went on you know Jericho Writers? It was back in the day. It was called Agent Hunter. It's a website, and you get the first week free. Shh, don't tell anyone. And you can get to have a look at all the different agents and the genres that they want, and what their personalities are like, and things they've said. So Jericho Writers have done all the work, all the research, and I went through that, and it was a bit like speed dating. You know, when you sit next to someone and they go, "No, you're not for me. Yes, you're for me." No, you know. And I picked 12 agents that I thought might be good for what I'm putting forward. They might be interested in what I was writing, and I sent it off to 12 of them. And I got 6 really good replies, and I got 2 people were asking to see the manuscript, and I got 2 no, we don't want you, but because we've got people who are like you. And then I've got 2 people who just sent, you know the slip of doom that just said nah. You know,
standard reject letter almost.
Standard reject letter, yeah.
I paid for the wall with them.
You know, out of them, and they're important, you know, because they show you how far up the mountain you've got, don't they? And then one was interested, so I sent her the whole manuscript, and she accepted. So I'm on a plateau and I'm thinking, yes, I've got an agent, you know, have a little rest. And then the next stage is you have to look for your publisher. Now that, again, my journey has been a roller coaster because nobody wanted to buy the book. And I was quite devastated. Nobody wanted it. However, Sam Eads at Trapeze, it was my Dragon's Den moment. She said, look, Sarah, she goes, I don't want that. Have you got another idea? And I went, yes. And I told her my idea about Witness X. And she said, great, we'll have that one. So go away and write the book. So I was like, oh my Lord, I've got one of the best publishers in the industry and an idea. And I had to write this book in 18 months. So
no pressure.
But I got it done. It was a lot of pressure, but the problem with me was that I've got no formal training at all in writing. I mean, I've only taught myself. I've read the books that to try and help me along. And the books about writing, and I've read a lot of novels and stuff. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but Sam Eads, bless her, she put me through my paces, and finally, you know, it took 18 months, but finally we got Witness X, and I'm quite proud of it, to be honest.
Well, that's really good, isn't it? I mean, I think you've done well there, considering you contacted, say, 12 different people and you got that many replies. I hear a lot of other people, a lot of other authors who get so many knockbacks and only get the odd one, you know, success. So I think you've done pretty well to get some really positive vibes back there.
Yeah, and you know, as a want to be author, you take all the goodness you can out of it, and you need to hold on to them, don't you, because it is so hard. But then unfortunately, you see, this is like my unfortunately story. It kind of does go like this. Then after Witness X was published, my agent dropped me. And so I was back at the beginning, and I think it's like, you know, when you split up with somebody and you think, oh, nobody will ever love me again, you know, and I had to go through the process again. And again, I had 2 agents who wanted to represent me. This is with my second book. So this is after Witness X. I had 2 agents who wanted to represent me, and I had to make a choice, which was nice. And then I've got a new agent called Ed Wilson at Johnson and Alcock, and he's brilliant. He's just really, really positive. So I've got a new agent, and then you go back to the beginning then, because we're looking for a new book deal for book 2 now.
Well,
so it's not all plain sailing. It's not plain sailing, is it?
Oh, it's not. But yeah, you've been quite lucky there, having 2 people fighting over you in a way, you know. But just going back to your book, Witness X, then. One reviewer called it a cross between Blade Runner and Silence of the Lambs. So is there a Clarence Starling and a Hannibal Lecter type characters in these books, or not?
Well, what I'd say is, another reviewer said it was more Mindhunter meets Minority Report, and I think that's far more accurate, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay.
And I think in the sense of, I mean, nobody could ever reproduce anybody as fantastic as Hannibal Lecter. You know, if I was ever going to have a dine out with a fictional character, it would certainly be Hannibal. I'd just make sure I got off before the pudding so he didn't kill me. But
right.
you know, there's a lot of psychology in it. Yeah, there's a lot of psychology. I think it Silence of the Lambs is, you know, a young woman trying to find answers, and that there is that. I've used Kyra, who's a neuropsychologist, and there is a lot of psychology about why serial killers do what they do. So in that respect, it's a little bit Silence of the Lambs, a little bit Mindhunter, but Kyra's a little bit older. I'm an older woman, and I don't want all these, like, you know, gorgeous young 23-year-old women running around. I wanted someone who's a bit more worldly and a bit more, you know, a bit older. So so she's not quite like Clarice now.
Sarah, the main character, Kyra, she's developed this technology. It looks, the acronym CASNDRA. Is that like Cassandra, like the what's it, the Greek priestess? Is that a link there with the Cassandra?
Exactly what it is, Terry. That's
wow.
exactly what it is. Yeah, yeah. I wanted yeah, it's an acronym, but it's like Cassandra was somebody who saw the future and nobody would believe her, and that's really what Kyra's like. And Kyra is another name. You know, as I say, my son Tig, his name's got a lot of meaning, and Kyra has a lot of meaning because I based it on in Greek, ancient Greek. There's two types of time. There's chirological time and there's chronological time. So chronological time is when one thing happens after another.
Linear.
But chirological, but chirological time is when something important happens. So because Kyra's she's developed this technology where she can actually experience for herself what the witnesses to murders have seen and experienced. So for me, I called her Kyra in the sense of that she's dipping into time, which is really significant and important time, and that's why I called her that.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, so how far do you think this is realistically off ever happening? Do you think it's a possibility that this could come to fruition in time? Because we're writing about it, so you know, we must be thinking about it.
For sure. And I think, what is it, life imitating art? I think there is already, you know, some computer brain interfaces where we can see in a very simplistic, rudimentary way what people are thinking of or what people are imagining or what they're looking at in another place, and it's picking up on certain images in the brain. So I do actually think that, I think it's a few years off, but I certainly think things like this eventually, or something like it, could happen. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think you're right, by the way. I just wanted to get your touch on it, how you felt on it, your opinion. Yeah.
So, Sarah, the book cover, is that linked with a bit of symbolism as well? You know, the world upside down.
Well, no, I didn't design this one. Well, you know, I wouldn't know how to design a book cover, but I absolutely love that cover. I mean, I thought it was going to be all black and depressing and miserable. I think in a sense it is, because there's Kyra there falling out, and it's this sense that she's just in this completely surreal other world where she's not in control of things and the world's upside down. So I do like that one. I've got the German cover here because it was written it was translated in German. You can see that, and it's kind of more Rorschach-ic, isn't it? It's like the Rorschach ink block test. I think that's really cool. That's really cool as well. So that's a bit more dark and red, as you kind of expect.
That's like an X-Files. That makes me think of X-Files, that one.
Yes, Germans love that crime books. They really do. And, you know, and to be taken into another country, it just felt like I won an award or something. I was so excited that another country wanted to buy it. And the editor's called Daniel Muller, so he translated it. But what's really weird is then you have a book that you wrote but you can't read, because I don't speak German, but you know, I mean, I struggle enough with English, trying to get the English just the right word. You know what I mean? So,
Scouse, not English.
Really oh, 100%, 100% English, 100%. Yeah.
How's the sales going for the German edition?
Yeah, it's going quite well. I've had it started off really well. Not sure at the moment. I haven't been looking. I've tried not to look too much at the sales figures and stuff, but I kind of got, I'd say, lucky. I had a couple of really good experiences in the British sales, where I peaked on the, you know, on the Amazon sales stuff because of various things that had happened, and but I don't really know anyone in Germany. People don't know me in Germany yet, but I'm hoping on the second book they might start buying me backlist and start getting to know me a bit better. Because that's what it's about. When you know what I said about, you know, this mountain. So we're up here and we've got an agent, and we're up here and we've got a publisher, and then we have to, you know, win hearts and minds. You have to connect with your audience, don't you?
Need more spotlight shining on you, don't you, to stand out?
Yeah. So is Witness a standalone book, or is there a follow-on to the series, or are you going off in a different book? Or go on, you must know. You're smiling.
I do, yeah. No, well, it's interesting because I'm laughing because originally I'd had a different ending. I won't say what it was, but originally I'd had a different ending to Witness X. And my editor said, can you change that, because, you know, it could end up as a series, because nobody has bought it yet, but there was a bit of interest from possibly TV. And if it was kind of a little bit more open-ended, then there was always the possibility that that they'd make another series of it, if they ever, you know, get round to making a series of it. I kind of dream one day that Saran Jones will take it on, because I absolutely love her, and I think, you know, she's a writer as well, and she's a fantastic writer, and I could really imagine someone like her being the you know, being Kyra. I could imagine that, but you can daydream, can't you?
Why not?
Hey, that's a good one. That's a good person to have doing it. Saran Jones, though, isn't it? That'd be fantastic.
She's great. I love her.
Yeah, isn't
Brilliant.
she? Yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
So, Sarah, you had your book launched in the Reader Buildings in Calderstone Park. Have you been to other memorable places, or any good memories from other promotions?
Yeah, I mean, the Reader in Calderstones Park, you know, we played there all the time. It was with kids, and it's gorgeous. And that house, funny enough, was a probation service house for a long time, was very run down, and now it is absolutely stunning. They've restored it, they use it for all sorts of fabulous events, and so that's where I really wanted the book launch to be. And we had a great party. It was loads of fun. You know, my friends that said, I've never been to anything like that before, and I was lucky because Luca Veste, who's another crime writer, came to do the interviewing.
I know Luca actually fairly well. Yeah, I know Luca.
Oh, he's lovely. I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
So that was a really good promo. But I think where my book sort of like took off a little bit was, one of them was that somebody had written something really nice and it went into the Guardian Books of the Year.
Wow.
You know, that was, I mean, that took my breath away. Somebody told me about it because I didn't know about it, and they said, have you seen this, you know, your book's in the Guardian? So I was really thrilled, and that's what I copied that onto my website, which is sarahmoorhead.com, if anybody wants to have a little look at that. And then the other thing that happened that was hilarious was, and my book peaked again, was because it came to be that do you know Stuart Turton, who wrote the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle? Well, he's a big he's not a crime writer, but he's a sort of cross-genre writer, and he had a best-selling book called the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and it turned out on Twitter that I'd actually taught him. So I taught him years ago back in Witness, and so we reconnected over Twitter, and it was just hilarious because we were talking about the worst. Some random I put, what's the worst nightclub you've ever been to? And I said, well, I was in Witness when I was a very young teacher. I mean, there's a place called Top of the Town called Toppers. And Stu went, oh my God, do you miss Moorhead? And I'm like, yes, I miss Moorhead. You know, we got back in touch. And then because he's got a really quite high profile, I think, again, you know, people knew I'd taught him. And it was what he said to me, I just always wanted to find you to say thank you, because the things you taught me in sixth form general RE, they really influenced, you know, how I wrote the books that I write, and all the big ideas that you brought, like, you know, death and justice and the afterlife, and how should we treat people, all kind of rolled into one and became part of what I wrote. So I really wanted to thank you. And that, again, that was like winning an award. I just felt like things I'd done in the past, and teaching's a very difficult job at times, that it was worthwhile that something so good had come from, you know, sharing ideas with kids in the classroom.
Brilliant.
You were writing your book then, so how did you get on with doing all your editing? Did you have to edit and go back and do things again, or did you send it to a publisher? And did you have beta readers, professional editors, or whatever, proofreaders, anything? I don't know anything to come back to you, give you inspiration to change it or remodel it if need be, or did you totally blank all that?
No, it's right. So as I said, I've got no formal training in writing and creative writing. You know, a lot of people kind of go on these courses, don't they? But I didn't do anything like that. I was too busy teaching, didn't have the money. And you know, a lot of them in London or whatever. So I just had to have a go. But as I say, I was really, really lucky because I had Sam Eads, and she's like just one of the best editors in the business. And she put me through my paces. It was proper author boot camp. You know, she wouldn't let me get away with anything, and she challenged me again and again and again to rewrite it, make, you know, what about this, what about that? So it really, she stretched and challenged me, and you know, thankfully I survived that. But really, you've got to put your ego out the way. You know, you've got to say, right, it's not about me and my ego and how good this book is. It's about producing the best work I can possibly do. So I took on board, you know, the majority of what she'd suggested, and the areas that she said I'd kind of could improve in. I mean, once or twice, I said, no, this really jars with my vision of the book and I'm not doing it, but not very often. The rest of the time I listened and adapted to what she'd said to find my own way of making it the best book I could. And she was great because she gave me a lot of leeway to do it my way as well. But you really have to listen to criticism and give it 24 hours and not cry and throw the book back. You know, you've got to listen and be careful and try and make it work for you.
Yeah, I think that's the worst knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? Sometimes you feel really down and out with some of the criticism. All right, it's constructive feedback, really, isn't it? But you think it as criticism at the time, and that is the hardest bit to take on board. And I think that's key. 24 hours is probably gives you time to calm down, doesn't it? And and not take it personally, because we've got the same aim in mind, is to make it the best book we can. So, you know, don't take it personally, just work hard.
Yeah. So, Sarah, I think it's time running down. Maybe just a couple more questions. I've got one regarding that. About your plot, and did you plot with bullet points, or did you let the character sort of grow organically?
Right, that Witness X was an organic discovery writer's book when I just discovered it as I went along. Would totally not recommend that at all. And since I've learned how to read, I've taught myself via books like John York Into the Woods and Save the Cat Writes a Novel and Seal in Hollywood, those kind of books. I've learned how to structure a book, because I think structure is the hardest thing. You know, character and plot and everything else is not as difficult, but structure is the hardest thing. And if you get that right, you won't have to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. So I think I would always suggest that as a bit of advice is, you know, learn how to structure your story, and it just make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that the first couple of bits, they come sort of naturally in a way, but the other part, that's technical, isn't it? And that is an obstacle to overcome, is the structure.
It is technical, and the other things, you know, our brains are built for story. Our memories, our dreams, our hopes, everything is all about stories. Our life, we know how to use a story, but you know, we know how to work a story. We know how to create ideas. We know what people are like, but the structure is very difficult, and I think that's probably where most first-time writers might fall down, because I know I did again and again until I got a grasp on it.
Yeah. All right. Finally, from me then. So, as a writer, and with your experiences you've had with your publishers and all that, and the criticism, what would your advice be to a writer starting off for the first time? How would you tell them to approach a book and writing? Would you? Well, yeah. Go on. You tell me what you think.
Number one, finish it. Don't mess around. Get it down. Take the Nike approach. Just do it. Just get it down on paper. You know, and then you've got something to work with. And also write about something that you really care about. You've got to love that book, because you're going to be with that book for a number of years. And start as early as you can. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. I'm 51 already, and I just wish I would have started, you know, years and years ago. I would have started learning and tried to do it beforehand. But I also think in life, there's the right time for everything comes around in its own time. So it's just got to be when you're ready.
Excellent advice.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Steve.
No,
Yeah.
I really appreciated it. But thanks very much. Let's keep in touch, and maybe on the next novel have another chat.
Do you know what I was going to say to you? Because my second book now is at the publishers. We're just waiting on a deal, and I'd love to come back. Yeah, it's a bit sciencey as well. It's about a psychiatrist who tries to cure psychopathy with synthetic empathy, and there's loads of people murdering people, and she's trying to cure them. So again, could happen one day.
Wow,
I can't even pronounce
I know,
half those words you just said.
I'm just catching my breath. That's easy for you to say.
Love it, whatever it means. Yeah.
All right then. On that note, I'm going to say cheers and thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Lovely.
Oh, thanks, Steve. It's lovely to see the pair of you, and I really hope to keep in touch with you on Twitter. And if anybody wants to find me, I'm on Twitter at Essie Moorhead, and my website is sarahmoorhead.com, and it'd be great to hear from anyone.
Brilliant.
Superb. Brilliant.